Whoa. It worked.
I think I work around with the proper system, so.
I just got it down.
Yeah, it's not the way it should be working. It's gonna happen.
I was never the place to look at. Second base actually, that was. I got hurt those guys. Because I had to go to the outfield.
I'd rather play second.
But you can't be able to move that.
Yeah.
In between myself and our junior year. So I had to play the outfield. My junior. Rehab. Plus, I realized. Yeah, way more substantial than these.
No, okay, I use this.
It looks like they're integrated into the thing.
Either.
Yeah, these just kind of glue down.
Yeah.
So they pop right out, so they get.
So like, yeah, this is the same one I have.
Saratoga open up, Mike.
I don't know, later July 18th. No attendance, so I guess.
Really?
Yeah.
One of my favorite summer activities.
Yeah, I enjoy myself.
So we're gonna have you guys all shots.
Yes. That's why, 50 by 100-foot horse ran dirt floor. They want the dirt floor. So. Or wood floor. Oh, dude. Or less than $1 a square foot. I used actually a 3/4 inch plywood roof last week. Then some 6-foot plastic. kind of level out, I didn't do a good job of my property solutions, but I had a bunch of cedar siding come off the house. So I used that as shingles and all this. So the long edge, does, has come improved. But short end, but, so shim that. So what do you do that? This is a different story. Joe's daughter was gonna have her wedding sometime. No, you could. Actually, what I did was, so I laid that down and then a little bit. And then, actually, I tried it. And then,
Appropriate system, but I didn't share the live stream now.
butters and pipes,
Wood.
wood. Forest trap, it's flat, but it's not like.
It is, it's easier.
Exactly.
So returning from executive session, discuss an issue of potential sale of city property, notes to neighbor in the executive session. Let's begin our common council meeting tonight with pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Second, do roll call. Mayor Reed, present. Councilor Barbell.
Yeah.
Councilor Kelly.
Here.
Councilor Gibbs.
Here.
Councilor Brody.
Here.
Councilor McFarland. Councilor Moore.
Here.
Just a couple of comments for you. Tomorrow, we'll be beginning and completing the discussions with the unions on the shared cost savings in lieu of layoffs, as instructed by the council and Councilor Brody. So as soon as I find results of that, I'll share that with you. I can hand you out another report you asked for. Pass those around. These are the overtime reports for June. To summarize, there's about $65,000 of total overtime in the month. Approximately very close to half of that was in the fire department, quarter of that was in the police department, and all the other departments represented the remaining quarter for the overtime. And I also, again, from Councilor Brody, you instructed me to speak with the next, we passed the resolution to the effect of asking me to speak with our representatives in state government. I had a lengthy discussion with Senator Little on turf fees. She's actually been on a number of committees that have tried to get turf fees together. We all see the real advantage of that. It's a great idea. But she says that each time that they try to do it, it's unsuccessful, do not pass the assembly for approval of that at this time. She doesn't preclude the idea, but we've got a real uphill battle in that. And the other communities tried that and been unsuccessful. There are a couple of big communities like Rochester that have managed to get it through in years past. So I think it should always stay on our radar screen. We can work on it. It's an excellent idea. But need many of the objectives. And also already described last week. Some are related to that. I also asked for the status of our land bank that we propose to be able to market, rehabilitate, reuse vacant properties in the city of Plattsburgh. We've got a very unique situation for the rest of the county, and that our property is very highly valued. And hence we need to bring that back on the market. So our land bank isn't designed to demolish buildings, it's designed to rehabilitate buildings. As you know, we put in a request for a land bank that a full application a year and a half ago has been languishing, waiting for Clinton County to do something. Clinton County hasn't done, put together a land bank application. The senator is quite concerned about it. She is willing to sponsor legislation. It's one of her last 2 or 3 things she'd still like to accomplish. She says the only thing that's holding that up is legislation would allow us and the county to do it. It's not us or the county, it's us and the county to do it is that the county has to pass approval of a resolution to allow the city to have a home rule law that allows us to have our own land bank. So if the county is willing to do that, then she believes that that would be one of her last two accomplishments on our behalf. Something on that. That's all I have. So the result, the minutes of the regular meeting of the Common Council held on July 1st, 2020 are approved and placed in public records of the city clerk's office, moved by Councilor Gibbs, seconded by Councilor Barbell. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. Resolve the payrolls of the various departments of the city of Plattsburgh for the week ending July 8, 2020, in the amount of $53,089.13 are authorized and allowed the mayor and the city clerk are hereby empowered and directed to sign warrants from the Chamberlain for the payment thereof. Moved by Councilor Gibbs, seconded by Councilor Kelly. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. You got in your packet the regular reports in addition to the overtime reports you requested. Are there any additional reports beginning with Councilor Barbell and government strategy of city operation?
Nothing to report.
City infrastructure, Councilor Moore.
Well, we just had our meeting and, had a good discussion and that's one of the.
Finance and budget, Councilor Kelly.
Just a question about the electric bills. I understand that some citizens are not receiving their electric bill in a timely fashion. And I appreciate you checking on that for us, Mr. Mayor, and understanding why that might happen. And I think it will be rectified very shortly.
Hopefully.
Yeah, thank you.
Public safety, Councilor Gibbs.
Well, everyone, let's take this off. Everyone can see that there's a resolution on the agenda tonight. It's item B, which is a request for data and information because Councilor Barbell and I are trying to take a very close look at operations, staffing, needs. And I really wanted that resolution to make it very public to everybody that we're working very hard to do our homework, do the research. We need the data so that we can make informed decisions in regards to budget. So, thank you.
And I've invited you, actually, all the councilors. I know there's a provision in the charter to work through my office for conversations, but I invited you at the time just to work with the department heads directly. I'm not going to go that.
Oh, thank you.
Last report, Governor Councilman Barbell.
I have no updates to the library or,
Resolved reports are listed for their record received. The reports are placed on file among public records in the city clerk's office. Moved by Councilor Gibbs and seconded by Councilor Barbell. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. No correspondence to the recommendation of the boards at this time. Result, the bills audited by the Common Council for the week ending July 10, 2020, in the amount of $231,571.58 are authorized and allowed. The mayor and city clerk are hereby authorized and directed to sign warrants drawn on the city chamberlain for the payment thereof. Moved by Councilor Kelly, seconded by Councilor Moore. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Now for the public, please come and address the council on issues on the agenda. There's another public comment period at the end of the meeting for other issues.
Good evening. My name is Benjamin Pomerantz. I'm a Plattsburgh native by birth, now living and working in Albany. And happy to be back for the summertime. Not really planned, but COVID had other ideas. So here I am, and I had the chance during this time to be able to work with a great group of volunteers locally on putting together a outdoor concert series with the focus on the stage that the city has at the Harborside Lots. And those who were down there on July 4th saw the initiation of that bandshell with a drive-in, socially distant concert series that kind of marked the return of live music to our community in these days when it's been silent for so long. The Adirondack Jazz Orchestra and a full house, a full parking lot, I guess is the correct phraseology, of people who stayed in their cars, stayed in a socially distant manner, and really enjoyed themselves for the evening. And very grateful for the city's support of that initial program. We're looking to continue that throughout the summertime. And I had the chance to be in touch with Councilor McFarland about the various logistics of doing that. And everything seems to be checking out nicely. A couple of brief highlights is that this is a volunteer-based, truly grassroots initiative. There is not a need for city employees to come down and patrol the grounds or take tickets or anything like that. We have a team of intrepid volunteers who took on that task successfully on July 4th and will keep on doing so throughout the duration of the summertime. The groups that are featured are either all local groups or groups sponsored by local series. Piano by Nature, Hill and Hollow Music, Plattsburgh Blues and Jazz, artists who are of our area and artists who are brought in by series that are from our area. We've had conversations with the folks over at Empire State Development about the requirements of a drive-in program. We know those requirements. We are abiding by them to the letter. And again, we'll continue to do so throughout the duration of the summer. The ask that I have of the city with regard to the concert series really is twofold. The first and foremost regards insurance, to have these programs at the Harborside covered under the ambit of the city's insurance. And we're talking about in terms of timing is every Saturday throughout the course of the summer up through the second weekend, the second Saturday in September. Concerts begin at 7:30 p.m. Concerts end approximately 9:30 p.m. There is a prior load-in period with our sound technician and with the group, and there, of course, is a post-show breakdown, if you will, where the site is cleaned off, all the items are taken away, they need to be taken away for the evening to keep things clean and in working order for the next time when the concerts happen. So the insurance coverage really is first and foremost in my mind and the minds of the volunteers of what we really need from the city to keep the music playing at the Harborside all summer long. The other piece is more logistical in nature, and that has to do with the parking lot itself. One of the challenges that was unforeseen that we encountered on July 4th was we arrived down at the lot to find, on that nice day, a lot of boat trailers that were parked right in front of the stage and the parking areas right next to the stage. Thankfully, we got lucky and people left early enough that cars could come and park in those spaces in a socially distant fashion, according to the diagram that was submitted to and approved by Empire State Development. It would make life a lot easier for all of us, and which I'm hoping we can obtain permission to do, is to block off using cones the first 12 rows of parking spaces from the stage going toward the parking lot entrance. That will still leave ample room for boats and boat trailers to be parked on that day. It'll make certain that we can still usher in cars if those boats and boaters are staying later in the evening in time for the concert to get them parked in accordance with the proper diagram. Beyond that, it's on us. It truly is a volunteer function, and we just ask for your support and your permission to keep continuing on with this work, to bring live music every Saturday night to the Harborside stage, show off that venue, show off that stage, and show off the local talent and area talent that we have. Happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Ethan, I think you look into the insurance and it would be able to come under the city insurance policy.
Yes, that's correct. In discussion with the city finance department, because the city will be authorizing these events, it will fall, it can't fall under the city's insurance umbrella. There isn't anything insurance the city has.
So it does fall under the insurance policy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
We did research, we at one time had an ASCAP EMI license to use, we do not have that anymore, so you have to obtain that for yourself.
And that's fine, yep. The licensing will be on me and the volunteers who are working with me.
I wanted to ask, Mike, about the request of parking. That's not in the resolution. We talked about the 12 rows right in front of the stage. Would that be problematic?
I'm
concern I would say is, we start throwing cones and traffic control devices, they end up disappearing most of the time in the lake. So at $13 a cone, that's always a big thing, that's always, every year we buy anywhere from 100 to 300 traffic cones. The reason being is just that, people take them, run them over, throw them in the lake, so we have to provide cones, that is a cost to us.
I think Ben was, you were talking earlier about you might have a church that would let you use cones and they would do that
We can
themselves.
provide the
They're gonna wanna
cones.
keep, they're gonna wanna keep track of them because people have a tendency not to respect them, that's for sure.
Understood. Good advice. Thank you. I certainly do this.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any other members of the please come forward and discuss any items on the agenda tonight? Anyone? Whereas the Park Twain Market Street to the west and Jersey Street to the east is long service of pathway from the Grand Center for the Arts and the Jersey Street parking lot. And whereas with development of the Jersey lot, it will allow more people to live downtown and residents of this would like to finally access the river between the Veterans and Kennedy bridges. And whereas there will be a continuous green space and sculpture garden between the Grand Center for the Arts and the newly opened riverfront. And whereas this arts walk will serve the city for decades to come. And whereas Senator Betty Little has also served the city for decades as our state senator and is about to retire, this arts walk is about to be completed. Now therefore be resolved that the described green space between Margaret Street and Jersey Street shall be known as the Betty Little Arts Park. Motion moved by Councilor Barbell, seconded by Councilor Roby. Discussion. Roll call, Councilor Barbell.
Yes.
Councilor Kelly.
Yes.
Councilor Gibbs.
Yes.
Councilor Brody.
Yes.
Councilor McFarland.
Yes.
Councilor Moore.
Yes.
Whereas the common council of the city.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to waive the reading and move resolution number 70.
Moved by Councilor McFarland, seconded by Councilor Barbell. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Now discussion of item B itself.
Obviously, Councilor Gibbs mentioned this resolution in her committee review. Personally, to not recommend.
Further discussion? Roll call, Councilor Barbell.
Yes.
Councilor Kelly.
Yes.
Councilor Gibbs.
Yes.
Councilor Brody.
Yes.
Councilor McFarland.
Yes.
Councilor Moore.
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore, the common council accepts and authorizes the property owner to enter into a contract with the lowest price qualified selected bid for downtown grant program 21 Bridge Street renovations. The renovation work related to 21 Bridge Street project pursuant to the downtown grant program administrative plan. Moved by Councilor McFarland, second by Councilor Gibbs. Discussion.
Where is this?
Yeah.
Where is?
Where is this?
Yeah,
Just
where is-
around the corner, next to the co-op.
So this, for his, project, I discussed this a little bit last week. He already completed the renovation in the interior of his building right now, he's working on the facade. So he has a bid from Evans Glass to place the glass work from the bottom commercial level. That's what this bid is coming in for.
What was the business before that? What was it?
Last week, there was 2 other projects looking for bids.
No. What was the business there? What was it?
That part of the co-op is that building, I believe.
Oh, okay.
It's expanding into that commercial space there.
Oh, okay.
Is it called the owner of the building?
Is, Evan O'Hara is the property owner.
Further discussion? Roll call, Councilor Barbell.
Yes.
Councilor Kelly.
Yes.
Councilor Gibbs.
Yes.
Councilor Brody.
Yes.
McFarland.
Yes.
Councilor Moore.
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore, the common council approves rejecting all bids received for the city of Plattsburgh downtown revitalization initiative Arts Park. Moved by Councilor McFarland, second by Councilor Kelly. Discussion.
Yes, Director, perhaps you can invite me as the buyer, we should reject all of the bids received for the city of Plattsburgh revitalization.
Sure.
And Ethan, is Dan available?
Yeah, I just asked him to start.
Okay.
There it is.
We have Dan Shearer from Saratoga Associates available to answer the council's questions as well, and also to speak to some of the trends that he's observed in bidding patterns of contractors before the COVID pandemic hit and how that pandemic has affected how they are submitting bids. So to summarize, the bids that were received, the project was bid out in 3 separate parts. This is required by the grant funding. General construction, electrical contracting, and plumbing contracting. The architect's estimate, the engineer's estimate for what the improvements would cost was roughly $750,000. When the bids were received, the only bid, and it was a combination of the 3 individual bids, was roughly $1.25 million, so about $500,000 over what we were expecting. So we had discussions with Saratoga and the Department of State. And Dan, are you available?
Yes, I am, Matt.
Could you speak a little bit to what you've seen?
Yeah. Oh, sure. I'd be glad to, Matt. Good evening, everyone. What we've seen in the bids that we put out this spring is unique. Our firm has been doing bid packages for 50 years, and we've never seen anything like this specifically. COVID has had an impact on the prices for all of our outstanding bids. They varied between 30 and 70% higher than normal. And there's a couple of factors that all kind of create a perfect storm with respect to bid prices. First of all, we had a very strong economy before, and we put it out to bid just as the pandemic was really getting going and having a direct impact on activities. Well, that shut a number of projects down that weren't considered essential. So we basically lost in the construction season between 2 to 3 months on a construction season that in upstate New York, and you folks are well aware, is going to be short anyway. So it's a 7 to 9 month window. So basically what has happened, and we've seen this across the state, we've had 7 different projects that we put out to bid in the first or second quarter, and they've all come in 30 to 70% higher. We really think this is a COVID bump that is caused by the strong economy we had before, these capital projects where the funding is in place, and instead of the full backlogs being done in 9 months or 8 months, they have to be executed in 5 or 6. There's 2 things that really, so with that being factored in, you look at the competitiveness of the bids. Well, there was 1 bidder for each one, and that's also a factor of full backlogs. There's just not a competitive environment because people have full plates. And even in the places where we've had significant numbers of bidders, the numbers have been higher. We do a lot of cost estimating. So this was a surprise given where it was with respect to the scope of work, but it's not a surprise when you factor in the circumstance of where we are today.
Just to add briefly to what Dan said, after we received the bids, we did reach out to some of the local contractors that you would normally expect to bid on a project like this, but they decided not to submit bids, and asked them why they chose not to do so. A common theme was, as Dan said, scheduling, that they simply do not have the requisite resources to add any additional work to what they already have on their books that needs to get done this year. So they decided to forego it. We got the single bid, so it's difficult to compare, but it was just very poor timing. And to accept the bid as it was submitted would severely limit the ability of the city to complete the other projects that we are proposing for the Streetscape and Riverfront Access DRI project. Mainly the Riverwalk itself, between Bridge and Broad Streets, and the improvements to Turkey Street, including the additional parking and streetscapes.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask about. So the Riverfront streetscape improvements, I imagine we're expecting a 30 to 70% over increase on the cost of those too, right?
Not necessarily, because when we're talking about the Durkee Street improvements or the Riverwalk, those construction timelines are 2021 or forward. And at that point, the shock of COVID will have worn off and the scheduling constraints that were imposed by the 2-month, 3-month state lockdown will no longer be in place, hopefully.
So this resolution is interesting because it's actually worded in negative. If we were to vote it down, what is the idea here? That we pick it up again for another bidding next year or in the fall or what?
Yeah, the idea would be to rebid the project in the fall with the intention of having the majority of the work completed in 2021, where the contractor can then plan that work into his next year's schedule, not having to worry about rushing it or paying top dollar to get additional crews in order to get it done this year.
So the completion of the project is going to be 6 or 7 years after we pitched the DRI improvement. How long? I understood that the Albany said we needed to start on these projects by the end of this year.
Yeah, that's
On
what
all these projects.
I mean, certainly the the wishes of the state are a consideration in this decision. My opinion is that the financial considerations involved here are the more pressing concern, especially considering the other projects that we've made consistent public commitments to doing, and that's the Riverwalk and the Turkey Street.
Well, what does the state say?
We had a discussion with Barb Kendall, and she was in favor of rejecting the current set of bids and then rebidding the project in the fall with the intention of possibly having some of the work done this fall, but having the majority of it done in 2021. So we have consulted the state on this, and they are on board with the proposed rejection of the existing bids and rebidding the project later in the year.
Is she the one that has authorization though for funding it or not, or pulling the funds back?
Well, Barb is our project manager for all of the DOS sponsored DRI projects. She answers directly to the person who is the overall controller of the DRI, and she keeps her informed of everything that's happening with the projects under her supervision. So
But I think part of that is that her saying that makes sense, is that granting the extension for next year? Because even if you mentioned last week that we would do an extension, if we're gonna wait on putting shovels in the ground. And my other question is regarding the division of budgets, proclamation that they're gonna be clawing back anything that's not under contract. If this is not under contract, would we possibly stand to lose this grant?
no, the grant itself is under contract between the city and the Department of State. The city has a separate contract with Saratoga for a portion of the funding provided by that grant. But the grant itself between the city and DOS, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the expiration date on that is sometime in 2022.
Yes, December of 2022 is the contract.
Yeah.
We didn't sign into that contract with the US since 2018.
Yeah, so we've got a considerable amount of time to expend the money. This is just something that, based on COVID, was, again, very poor timing, and we feel it'll be much better to rebid it when an impending crisis is not skewing the bid results, and we can move forward under more reasonable conditions.
So I see Dan's nodding his head back there. So it sounds like Dan, is in agreement that it makes a lot of sense to put off, to deny this bid, put it off to another bid in the fall, because come spring 2021, as long as, the pandemic or this pandemic doesn't continue to,
Yes, there's a great deal of uncertainty, but I definitely think where everything's trending and where the market is really in the A&E and construction industry, it's looking at this is going to bottom out and normalize by the fourth quarter. So as Matt indicated, we're looking to put most of our projects back out to bid in the fourth quarter. And so we can deal with the non-COVID driven pricing that we've seen this year and do it off season. Normally in a perfect world, you always want to put the bids out off season anyway. But this is even a further more unique circumstance with the pandemic. So our recommendation really is to follow what DOS said with respect to putting this back out to bid. It doesn't take a significant amount of work on our end, and we're actually going to reframe it and have it itemized so that if there's any flyers that stick out where maybe there's a contractor that bids and has one item that is significantly higher than we anticipate, we can talk to them about that specific item. And if necessary, look to extract that from the project, because as Matt indicated, this isn't just about the arts park, it's tied into the streetscape. And indirectly, it's tied into the riverfront. So we don't want to, put all our eggs in one basket per se.
If we didn't complete this, how much would the city be on the hook for if we didn't get reimbursed from the DRI?
If the city were to not get reimbursed for any DRI costs associated with the streetscape
Yeah,
project?
if it came back next time, it's still $500,000 over, and the council says, there's no way we could put that on the backs of the taxpayers. And they say, we're not gonna complete it. We've got a lot of investment already in it, engineering, design, et cetera.
Mhm.
What does that total?
The money that we've expended thus far on this, Dan, do you have an idea of engineering costs?
Yeah, I think it's a little difficult to parse it out, but it's probably on this project, it's probably around $50,000 specifically on design, engineering, going through the process of review and the bid letting. Normally, our projects on this front tend to be about 8% of what the overall construction cost is. So our final cost on this, folks, is probably going to be, probably about $60,000 to $65,000. And we're using RMS for some of the site survey too. So that's everything together on the A&E side. One thing I did want to say that was a point that was brought up earlier was the concern about funding being pulled for this. I speak with the state a lot because we have a number of clients that have publicly funded projects, and projects like this that have activity and are moving forward are on no one's radar or chopping block at this point, which is a positive. They're looking at the projects that are lying dormant, and Barbara Kendall has been a great representative for us in Albany because she understands that there is a lot of activity going behind the scenes to try to make this project a reality.
Thanks, Dan. And so if we were to go forward and approve the one RFP response, it'd be about 66.6% above the estimated budget, and that would just be less money we have to focus on the streetscape and river.
Yep,
That's correct.
That's it.
Director Miller, do you think, or maybe Dan has an opinion on this too, do you think this was probably the problem that came about with the Senac River Trail?
It's quite possible, yes, because this was bid out right around the same time as phase 2 of the Saranac River.
And now, I brought up the farmer's market last week. Usually see on the ICR farmer's market. It was here. We anticipate higher costs if we would try to move forward with the farmer's market right now?
That is a possibility, and that is one consideration that I did not include in my memo to the council regarding risk versus benefits of moving forward now or later. Because at the time I didn't think of it, but that is a consideration, and it is possible we could be looking at higher construction costs if we move forward now rather than potentially waiting till the fall, bidding it out then, requesting a extension from OCR to allow for construction to be completed in the spring of 2021, in anticipation of the markets opening in May of that year.
So that, hasn't gone up a bit yet. Wait, you said that, right?
Yeah.
What was that?
A few days ago.
I don't know what the name
Man, is it possible to change the scope on the arts park at this point so that it will come in under our own budget?
I mean, we did take a look at things that could be removed from the scope. Based on the way everything's laid out, our options for that are limited. One thing we did discuss, there is a sewer line replacement involved in the work that cuts, it's a main sewer line that cuts right through the center of the arts park. That was lumped into the general, that was the plumbing bid. It's possible just based on the nature of the work, that came in much higher than it would have otherwise if we had bid that out separately. So that's a discussion that we're currently having with Saratoga, whether it's worthwhile to do that. But as far as design features, without significantly altering the way that the park will look, there's not much we can do in terms of removing items from the scope. But as Dan indicated, we are considering reissuing the bid with an itemized requirement, so that if the bids come back and there's one thing that sticks out as absurdly expensive, we can speak to the contractor about removing that from the scope and then bringing the budget more in line with what we were expecting.
I think that's an excellent idea, Matt.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any further questions, discussion? Roll call. Councilor Barbell?
Yes.
Councilor Gibbs, or Kelly, pardon?
Yes.
Councilor Gibbs?
Yes.
Councilor Brody?
Yes.
Councilor McFarland?
Yes.
Councilor Moore?
Yes.
Thank you.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore, the common council agrees to and authorizes the execution of the First Amendment to the host agreement between the city and the Adirondack Television Bureau and DAS LLC for the 2020 DAS Master Elite Series Fishing Tournament to be held between July 30th and August 2nd, 2020. Moved by Councilor Barber, or Councilor Gibbs, second by Councilor Barfield. Discussion.
Yeah, but what is the amendment? I haven't seen.
Can you speak to that?
I'll allow Chrissy to answer. Chrissy Kennedy from the Northampton Chamber of Commerce.
So the amendment is about, obviously originally we had to change the dates due to everything, and as well, it takes away some of the responsibilities from the city. Due to the pandemic, we no longer will need a meeting space, they will no longer be hosting venues, they'll no longer be having a meal, they won't be needing the use of the boathouse facilities. So it's actually basically amending the contract to take away some of our responsibilities due to the fact that they can't host certain parts of this tournament anymore. So that's really what this comes down to, is taking away that and then adding the approval that we can go through with it on July 30th to August 2nd.
Nice, and I see this, it's going from July 30th to August 2nd, as you said, on August 1st is a Saturday, and obviously, Benjamin just gave a short presentation, and I think he's the next item on the agenda, which is Saturday at 7:30. What, are these two events gonna conflict with each other?
I don't know, this was something that we approved with you guys in a while ago, so that it's really up to you how you want to make that work, if you want them both to go. They do require space down at Dock Street for a trailer for the weigh-in that is still going to be coming. They have proposed in their safety plan to fence off the area, so I'm assuming that's going to interfere with that August 1st date. It's not something they can move very easily or quickly, to be honest, so again, that would have to be a logistic thing to figure out, but the stage doesn't move, it's right in that parking lot. I was not aware of it.
They typically use the parking lot by the marina, and this group uses the stage, which is closer to where the NLD used to be.
Yeah, so we use the park, and that's all we'll be using because of the fact that there will be no spectators. There will be no family coming with the anglers. Regulations have now said that it can only be an angler or one crew member that is coming. So really, honestly, our space and our footprint in the Dock Street area will be the parking lot, the marina parking lot, and some of the slips as well. It's very scaled back from, even their staff is completely scaled down to what they're bringing to the club.
And I understand the city will be responsible for enforcing the protocol and what's going to be enforced by others, county and state requirements and state. You're very familiar, you help negotiate that. These are considered professional athletes, one of the professional athletes protocol.
Yeah, we did get, when the professional sports competition guidelines came out, we contacted the state. They assured us that Bassmaster Elite was considered a professional sport. So they do fall under that criteria. They did put forth their safety plan. They are willing to have everyone tested within 24 hours upon arrival in New York State. They also like I said, have taken a ton of different safety measures that I'm happy to share the safety plan with you. We did run it by both John, the director of Clinton County Health Department, and his environmental person. They both approved it and said, and that was part of the guidelines as well that were put forward through the state. They both said it looked good. We've been in continued contact with them as well. So that answers your question, Mayor.
But yeah, it sounds like in 3 weeks, there might be, you guys may want to coordinate a little, but it doesn't sound like it'll be able to.
No, the nice thing about Bassmaster, the Elite Series, is they actually bring 85 anglers. It's a smaller, relatively more publicized event. By the time Saturday rolls around, there's only 10 anglers fishing because it kind of whittles their way down. So it's 85 for the first, and then it goes to 40, and then it'll be 10 by the final days. So really, as far as boats and minutia, and the things being down there and parking, as long as you don't use that marine parking, we'll be pretty okay to make it happen. And there is security on site that we do at the Visitors Bureau pay for. So we work with CV Tech and their security team and classes as well to help kind of maintain the stage area and the boats and make sure the docks and everything aren't tampered with or anything like that. So yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.
Any further questions? Roll call, Councilor Barbell.
Yeah.
Councilor Kelly.
Yes.
Councilor Gibbs.
Yes.
Councilor Rhodey.
Yes.
Councilor McFarland.
Yes.
Councilor Moore.
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore, the common council authorizes the approval of curbside and harborside weekly concerts utilizing the mobile stage at harborside commencing July 11, 2020 at 7:30 p.m. and continuing weekly thereafter to the Labor Day weekend. This curbside at harborside will be voluntarily produced by Benjamin Pomerantz. All attendees must comply with then current health and safety regulations and recommendations. In addition, the event organizer, Benjamin Pomerantz, will be responsible for providing any additional licenses or permits if required. Moved by Councilor Gibbs and second by Councilor Brody. Question?
I think it's a great idea. I went down to the fireworks last weekend, out of town. So I got to see the very end of the show, and it seemed that everything was going very well. People were enjoying it. Obviously, I've been in talks with them, and they already built all of the shows. So it's all ready to go. The insurance will be covered. It's all volunteer. And I think it's great to sort of bring some normalcy back, even though it's a little interesting sitting in the car. I think, for me, it wasn't a problem because the car's not very loud, but I think you can pick up the music through your radio too, right?
You can. There's an FM transmitter that our audio technician is using, so you can open your windows and hear the audio from the stage, or you can tune your car radio to whatever the station is for that evening, and you can get the radio right through the speakers in your car.
Yeah. So I thought it was nice. They had a nice jazz thing going on last week. What's coming up this Saturday?
Piano by Nature. So four musicians: violin, saxophone, piano, and percussion. 3 of the 4 have deep roots in the North Country. Dan Norton, who is a longtime professor of music at SUNY Plattsburgh, and actually, when I was here back in the day, my conductor for the Adirondack Youth Orchestra on saxophone. Rose Chancellor on the piano, who runs the Piano by Nature series. Jane Boxell on percussion, who has taught at SUNY Plattsburgh several times. And Marilyn Reynolds, violin from Rouse's Point, New York City, with now living in Rouse's Point.
So I guess
Really went off another glitch now. Everybody is wearing masks, staying in the vehicles, following the protocols. The fireworks went off nicely. We had a lot of thanks afterwards for the fireworks. We had a lot of angry people saying, why didn't we announce the fireworks? Tried to explain to the public that part of the protocol was that you're not allowed to announce the fireworks because the government fears that that would attract too many people and kind of urge, but driving out a number of people that come speculating the night fireworks anyway, and nobody was disappointed. So I think that went very, very well. The police reported afterwards that they had no problem with the event. And that was with fireworks. So traditionally for smaller events like this, I don't anticipate any problem at all.
Perfect. It seems like the only thing that might need to be discussed is Benjamin's request to kind of coming off the first 12 rows of parking, that's not in the resolution. Does that need to be in the resolution?
I'm confident EPW figure out something, we'll figure it out somehow, or police can help or something. That's why I said,
Okay, perfect. So we'll fix that.
any further discussion? Roll call, Councilor Barbell.
Yes.
Councilor Kelly.
Yes.
Councilor Gibbs.
Yes.
Councilor Brody.
Yes.
Councilor McFarland.
Yes.
Councilor Moore.
Yes,
No trial request at this time on any resolution for initial consideration. Any additional new business or council reports?
Yes, I'd like to give an update to everybody on the Public Safety Citizens Review Panel that I've been participating in. We had another meeting this week. The panel decided that 2 o'clock on Wednesdays was too difficult for everyone to actually make. So the panel decided to change the meeting times to Mondays at 4 o'clock. It's still in here. And there were some public members that came to ask questions and make comments. And we're still trying to figure out exactly the mission statement is going to be, and we're still kind of in fact finding, and we're still in formation as a panel. So I just wanted to update everybody on that.
Any other additional council reports?
I actually have more of a question. So you met with Betty Little, Senator Little. Is she still going to proceed with presenting the curbside tax idea to the government body, or is it a dead horse?
I think it's a dead horse, but she's going to try and keep conversations going, but let us know if there's any options.
Another question for you. We have a special assessment district for the parking lot. Did we have to go to Albany to get that?
I don't know if Andrew was born in 1954 when the local law was passed.
So,
I don't know if there was.
so we have the power to make special assessments, correct? From 1954.
That is my understanding.
So we do not need Albany.
Right, no, we'll have to look into it. At least Councilor Schmeller do some research on that.
So we do, tentatively speaking, we do not need Albany because the tax rolls are coming up again for 2021. And if we can vote to create the special assessment district or special assessment needs before tax time, we're going to save every taxpayer 25 to 35%. We don't need Albany, we just vote on it and do it. Is that correct?
It sounds wonderful to work on like that, so let's do that from our legal counsel that we can do that.
All right. The other questions I had were actually should have been our old business. Forgive me for missing that. Did we ever send a letter to the county requesting that there be no reassessment of downtown businesses or commercial buildings for the 2021 year?
I think we communicated that directly with the legislature with the intent and use.
He hasn't answered?
No, he hasn't answered.
I think we ought to recommunicate that. Especially since the new citizen. The other thing is, we spoke with Councilor Kedley about the idea of having an employee incentive program for employees that came up with ideas to save the city money. Have we made any progress in that? No. How do we follow up with that?
Probably flesh the policy out a little more, how you'd like to put it in place. Might be in the form of a resolution and make it available to all.
So I would do that for myself rather than, I didn't know if I had to go through a department or anything.
No, most resolutions that come forward are either sponsored by the offices that need the resolution or by councilors themselves. It's pretty rare actually that I make a resolution. I make a resolution regarding Senator Little today. That's quite rare. It's usually the council themselves that draft with the help of their legal help.
So I should work with,
We don't have a budget for that, so we would need a budget adjustment to move some funds into that program. And I would be happy to work with you on
Okay.
that, Steve.
I like that idea.
I do too. I think it's a wonderful idea.
The other thing we had talked about was being service oriented, was that we were talking about down in the parking lot in the back, city, where the city has the handicap parking lot, maybe putting a couple customer service people so that people don't have to cross MLB.
Right down here.
Yeah. Oh, in the parking lot right back here, putting so that you have older people who don't take the handicap parking lot. And if you ever try to cross this intersection here, walk across the street, it's treacherous. So like a, MLD customer parking convenience spot, 15 minutes walk. Well, it takes a little bit more now because of COVID-19. But they average,
How about these over a share now?
what's that? No, they pay the utility bill down here.
Oh, okay.
So they don't have to walk across the street, 10-minute parking, so they go in and do it, not have to be putting their life in jeopardy. We had talked about that, I didn't know where that was going.
Well, we can make a request to the planner to make sponsor right in front of the MLB office, 15-minute meeting parking.
Yeah.
Right now it's a 2-hour one.
Yeah, just so that they have some place to go.
I think you're talking to Senator Little already, it might be worth bringing up a session on approval on a land value tax. See how she feels about that.
Yeah, she said she's got 3 things that she's trying to get through in her remaining time. Slowly, will be off for another few months. So that may be a year. Whatever. You got that, whatever.
I'm gonna talk with our son about
Any other new business or council reports? Any closing public comments from the public, on any issue of mutual concern?
I'm gonna take this off, it's just easier. Everybody knows who I am, hi. I just kind of wanna clear up a couple of things as far as the market's possible relocation to Green Street. I wrote something out, but I'm thinking I'm gonna try and wing it. Basically, in a nutshell, 2 out of 3 of the market vendors are pro-moving to the Green Street or Harborside location. Everybody acknowledges the opportunity of growth, expansion, and being able to make the market a go-to spot. Obviously, because of everything that changed with COVID and everything, and the concerns have stayed the same as far as down there, everybody throughout the location and near the rough plant and everything else like that. So none of that has changed, but as far as the percentage of the vendors that want to move, it's still 2 out of 3 of them. That's what I broke it down to. That has not changed. The market has not changed in over 20 years, and every one of them acknowledged the fact that it is time to change. We also know that to turn something like this down would be foolish. It's beneficial to everyone. It's beneficial to the market. It's beneficial to our customers because of the ability and the possibility of all the expansion. So we are still on board with it. Some of the old timers, think, moving isn't the greatest thing, but they also acknowledge that with growth, it becomes, the market is going to be able to expand and just be so much better. So with that, I mean, that is in a nutshell what is. We are still for it. We recognize the potential for it. So really, I'm at a loss what else to say, but
So I think the question was not if we would move, but when speculation was, what if crime does not go ahead and Jersey Street remains unchanged for another 1, 2, 3, whatever years?
okay.
When do you want to move? Do you want to move now, or do you want to move when it's necessary?
Well, let's look at that a little bit. What if we said, okay, we'll stay until the parking lot, and if crime gets turned down and that it doesn't happen, Okay, we stay there and we don't move. But what if something else happens down to Harborside and we lose that opportunity? What's going to happen? That's not a forcing us issue. That is the issue of we recognize the options, and we recognize the opportunity. And we know that an opportunity like that cannot be passed up.
Now, Julie, it sounds like you're saying that 2/3 of the farmer's market wants to move even if Prime doesn't happen.
Correct, because of that what if factor. I'm an opportunist. I am a visionary. I'm a what if person. What if the council found something else to go down there? And we decide to stay there, and then that opportunity is taken away from us. What's going to happen to us if something potentially goes into the parking lot and we lose our building? There's too many what ifs. I don't like playing those what ifs, and most of the vendors don't either. You've got a lot of people that still rely on that for income. They still rely on that for their business. I myself do. That's my anchor for my business. I don't want that taken away. We need to stay in the downtown area. This is the right place to be. I mean, it's been thrown out there. Well, why don't you try up here or try? We need to stay localized,
So the next question was, when are you looking for this super practical? Obviously, we got some. I don't want to call it testimony, but we had some talk
like
about-
Matt just said, this, my husband is construction or was, so I'm familiar what the processes are, and I know that things, if they haven't been bid high, they're gonna be bid high. And I think it is the most rational thing to do, to wait for a rebid in the fall, and then go from there. I mean, I did not know that these funds might have to be used by the end of the year. That was news to me, and that's fine, whatever. I don't have to know about that part. But if that's the case, then obviously something needs to be done soon. But if it's not, then, obviously we need the best bids that we can find.
So tell me if I'm correct or not. It sounds like 2/3 of the farmer's market, there's one move, whether Prime happens or not, and they want to be there when the market opens.
Yes. I would never not say, I would never be presumptuous to say we're all on board. They're not. They're not all on board. God, I'm probably gonna get killed for saying this. Our president is not on board with them. And that's fine. Most of the old timers would rather stay where we are. But I'm looking, as a newer person, I'm looking to grow. I'm looking to have awesome events and entertainment. And when our world is back to normal, can't do that in that parking lot. I can't. There's no way. Where there's no green space. There's nothing. I mean, look at this year. I've had, my husband and I are there every Friday night putting cones out to keep people out of our corral. I've already had 5 cones stolen because people are being mischievous. Did you take my cones? They say my name. Anyway, so, I mean, there's nothing there. It's tarmac. I would like green space for the kids. I got a grant to put a really cute little table area and a kids area. I can't do that on tarmac. But, so that's it in a nutshell. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just very briefly, while we're on the subject, does the council have any questions on the memo that I wrote regarding the potential risks involved in moving forward now versus waiting until Prime is resolved? Is that a discussion you prefer to have?
I have a question. Did you send it to me? Because I just searched my email.
I think I sent it in to be distributed with the rest of the materials for.
Yeah, it's part of the 35-page documents from Wednesday, Tuesday,
Tuesday and Wednesday.
yeah. It's part of the Tuesday email. It's got that PDF that's 35 pages long.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in there.
All right, I was looking for it. So I'm sure we will.
I'm happy to answer any questions or if you guys would like to wait till next week.
I prefer to wait till next week. I haven't heard it, but, that's a question.
Any other closing public comments?
Very brief comment of thanks to the council for the support of curbside at Harborside. Come on down on Saturday nights, enjoy some live music. The idea of it being a return to normalcy of sorts in these very abnormal times really rings true. And that was a comment that we heard echoed, I think, a lot on Saturday night, folks on their way out after the concert and fireworks. So thank you for your support of that, and looking forward to a great summer of some live music downtown.
Thank you.
And I think it's what, $20 per car?
Yes.
And if social distancing eases, those guidelines ease, I imagine it will transform to be like a regular concert. You're allowed to be outside and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm still in touch with the people at Empire State Development, asking if the regulations have changed between last week and this week. Haven't heard of any changes yet, but still monitoring that. So there's a desire for folks, of course, to get out and sit next to their cars, or sit in the back of a pickup truck and watch from chairs there. So as things change, we will adapt accordingly. Thank you.
Any other additional public comments? Seeing none, so motion to adjourn. Councilor Gibbs, second by Councilor McFarland. Roll call, Councilor Barbell.
Yes.
Councilor Kelly.
Yes.
Councilor Gibbs.
Yes.
Councilor Brody.
Yes.
McFarland.
Yes.
Councilor Moore.
Yes.
Thank you.
Right.